Hello everybody, in this video I will explain how armor works in The Witcher 3 and what is, in my opinion, the best armor in this game. So let's start with a naked Geralt that has no armor on. This level 54 archer will hit him for 616 damage, as you can see in the left bottom corner. Now we put an armor with an armor value of 92 and no piercing resistance. The initial damage of the arrow of 616 is subtracted by the armor's value of 92, so we end up with 524 damage. Now I exchanged the armor to one that has an armor value of 107 and additionally to that has a resistance to piercing damage of 25%. With such a combination, the initial damage is first subtracted by 107, the armor value, which leaves us with 509, and then we subtract the 25% from the 509 damage and we end up with 381 damage. So if we combine a high resistance to piercing damage and a high armor value, the 616 damage arrow will only do 10 to 16 damage per shot. Even if your armor value exceeds the damage of a low level monster, you'll still get hit for up to 10 damage. I think the dev just introduced that, so you are not immune to the damage of low level monsters and they still can theoretically kill you. Armor value will not protect you from magical damage, and I do not know of any resistance that will reduce the damage of magical attacks. So no matter if you're naked or in full armor, Carantia will always hit you for 1350 damage on the normal difficulty. The armor value will also not protect you from elemental damage like these earth spikes, but some armor will have resistance to elemental damage like the Mastercarted Griffin armor. There are three types of armor: heavy armor, medium armor and light armor. They will have an effect on your stamina regeneration. Your normal stamina regeneration will be at 10 per second. But if you wear heavy armor, this will be reduced to 8 per second, so by 2 points per second. But if you wear all 4 light armor, then it will be increased to 14 per second, which you can use, for example, to cast spells more frequently. While generally all 3 armor types will have the same armor value at the same level, heavy armor will have more resistance than medium armor, and medium armor will have more resistance than light armor. Resistance is definitely more important than the armor value. In this example, I'm using a Feline Mastercarted armor with an armor value of 431, but only 30% resistance to monster attacks, and I took 5500 damage from the Griffin. Now I have a Ursine heavy armor Mastercarted, and while I have the same armor value of 431, I have a resistance of 70% to monster damage, and I took only 2000 damage from the Griffin. So unless you're playing on easy or fighting very low level enemies, resistance to damage is way more important than the armor value. So what armor should you get? In the beginning you can get in White Orchard from this merchant the Temerian Armor set, which only has a level requirement of 4 and has an armor value of 91 and 35 resistance to slashing damage, which in the beginning is quite good. But please remember that for this armor you need the free DLC installed. The Nilfgaardian DLC Armor that you can get at Crow's Perch is also nice, has good stats, but it's a medium armor, and by level 10 you shouldn't really go for a medium armor unless you're going for a sign build. When you reach level 16 at Kertrolde on the main island of Skellige, you can get the Undvik free DLC armor that has an armor value of 223 and 60% resistance to slashing damage, which is very good. And when you level up later on, you can get the level 41 version of that armor, which has armor value of 498 and a slashing resistance of 80%. Now, if you do not like this armor or do not have the money to buy it, around Skellige there are a lot of question marks which you can go with a boat to, and these are smugglers' caches. And there you can easily get great loot and simply because no matter what level you are, you can underwater you can one-shot the drones or sirens with one shot, and so you will get a lot of loot, and this way you can swim from one question mark to another. And I tried it for an hour, and I got really a lot of rare swords and armor, and you can use whatever you like or just cash it in. In my opinion, the best rare armor is the Zireael Armor that has 40% resistance to slashing damage, 25% resistance to monster damage, and 100% resistance to bleeding damage. One place where you can definitely get it is east of Oxenford from the contract Beast of the Oxenford Forest, and this Archgriffin will drop always the Zireael Armor, but unfortunately sometimes it's a low level version of it. While normally you should prefer DLC Armor or the Mastercarted armor from the Witcher schools, this Zireael chest armor has the high resistance needed to be a good armor. And theoretically you can get this Zireael armor in a version that has a level requirement of 68 and 350 armor value. The Zireael armor has also 3 spots for glyphs, and normally spots for glyphs are not important if you're using a combat build, but if you're going for a sign build, then you can use a greater glyphs of Igni, which will increase, in this example, my Igni damage from 384 to 454, which I think is a quite nice improvement. Normally I do not use the set gloves because I prefer to use the Nilfgaardian Guardsmen Gauntles, which have plus 50% critical damage, which in this example increases my damage from 2900 to 3200, which I think is quite a nice improvement. Every armor that is not part of an armor set has some base stats and some random stats. So if you craft, for example, the same armor 3 times, you will always end up with an armor that has slightly different stats. So what is the best armor? While theoretically you can get an armor value of 951 when you reach level 70, but you probably cannot do it without glitches or cheats, and the high armor value isn't really important. Like I said before, the resistance is the most important factor. That's why I think that the best armor to fight monsters is the Mastercarted Ursine armor, the heavy armor from the Bear School, because it has a 70% resistance to monster damage. And for fighting humans and human-like creatures, the best is the level 41 Undvik free DLC armor that has a resistance to slashing damage of 80%. The best solution is to carry those 2 sets and when you fight a monster, switch to the Ursine armor, so you can take way more damage, as you can see here now. And when you fight humans or human-like creature with the Ursine armor, you know, you will get killed fast, but with the DLC Undvik armor you can take way more slashing damage. Please note that there are still some bugs with the armor, and if you have any questions regarding armor, feel free to ask me in the comment section. Thank you for watching, please subscribe and check out my other Witcher 3 videos. Chance of an instant kill, which you can see here. Another way to use the free adrenaline points is for rend, the alternative attack that you can perform while holding the strong attack button.